Hello, dear friends. I'm back with another review for the Returning Player Experience series. It's been a while, hasn't it? Today, I'd like to delve into one of the more, controversial titles, you would say, within Assassin's Creed franchise, which is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, I would like to think that I'm somewhat of a veteran in the series. However, I don't really delve into the lore that much. The reason I like Assassin's Creed games in the first place is the Animus simulation part of it, where you play as the protagonist, so to speak, and I could care less about the subjects that produced said simulation. I have always found the present day sections kind of disruptive to the main story flow, and it's especially evident in Odyssey. I ultimately forget Layla actually exists within the Assassin's Creed Odyssey itself, and treat that game as an epic action adventure across the ancient Greek world as Cassandra or Alexios. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I review Assassin's Creed Odyssey more from the perspective of having Cassandra and Alexios as protagonists rather than Layla. Anyway, at some point I felt compelled to jump back into Odyssey again, but I really didn't feel like I wanted to get entangled with PS4 and the TV cables, so I just decided to get it on PC. It would also give me a better idea how it runs on PC by comparison to PS4. I was told there is a difference, but it's been so long since I played the game on PS4, I really didn't notice anything. So I am reviewing this as my PC copy, but I will be referencing a lot from my experience on PS4 as well. I'd like to point out that I'm not a fan of Ubisoft by any means. Quite on the contrary, I kinda sorta hate them.
Bruh.
But I love the game, and this game specifically, and I'm reviewing this game separate from my feelings about the Ubisoft as developer and a publisher, so please do not mix this two up. That being said, I will sing praises and criticism towards the game throughout this review. Don't be under the impression that I'm fangirling here. Also, with this review, I want to see if I consider Assassin's Creed Odyssey a true AC game or not, and if it deserves the general hate it has received from diehard fans of the franchise, so let's dive in. Also, I will do my best not to spoil anything, but there's possibility that there will be little spoilers here and there, so just beware of that. I first played AC Odyssey, or I'm just gonna say Odyssey, while being cooked up in the apartment during the whole COVID craze of 2021 or whatever year it was. Ubisoft offered a limited time of free gameplay on PS4 at the time, and I decided to take a glance at it. I was very conflicted going into the game first time around, as I'm a huge ancient Greek myths nerd, and I was totally expecting this game to disappoint me. The result, however, was the opposite. I bought the gold edition and platinumed the game with the additional 99% completion across the board between base game and DLCs. I believe I only have a few portals to close in the Hades realm to get the last achievement on PS4 to be a full, complete 100% completion. I also, oddly enough, managed to get the best ending in the game, which confused me because that's usually not the case. That hardly ever happens. So as I have mentioned, I was playing the game in the beginning with very huge dose of skepticism, but Odyssey took me completely by surprise with how alive it actually feels. The world is huge, but it's not dead or empty. It's brimming with life and conflict. Most NPCs are just generic NPCs, but many of them actually feel like characters. Something that cannot be said with more recent games that I played, like Final Fantasy 15, which has this huge world, but often it feels a little empty and almost void of life. So it's like looks pretty, but there's nothing there. It's not the case with Odyssey. As for the NPCs feeling like characters, it really becomes apparent with the side quests, or the series of the quests called The Lost Tales of Greece. I really loved that one. That one was like one of the best side quests I've done. I guess you could call it groups of quests, because they're like each of them has its own episode, so to speak. And these were especially great because firstly, they presented a different perspective on what a side quest actually is. Many of them pose questions of morality and test of character. Secondly, these quest-like episodes allow you to bond with some of your friends like Barnabas and Socrates and Herodotus. And actually, one of the quests serves as a conclusion to the entire Herodotus arc of his participation in your adventure. There is no denying that Odyssey is a long game and it takes a while to complete it, even if you just ignore side content and go straight for the main quest line. I still have to commend the writing team, however, that they managed to create something truly special and not turn the game into a repetitive fetch quest bonanza so many games fall victim to. Practically every side quest in this game tells a story, and almost none of them are similar to each other, and some even carry consequences to the state of the world or have an impact on your story as the protagonist in some shape or form. They also made sure that NPCs felt like characters and not some generic manifestation of pixels. Even your pet eagle and your horse are characters rather than just NPCs with dead eyes stare into nothingness. I like how writers have also invoked emotions in me as a player, both towards the main nemesis of the plot and the NPCs within it, making every loss along the way feel that much greater and the ending of the main quest that much more emotional. Even the best ending kind of made me tear up a little bit. Another thing that I really love about Assassin's Creed Odyssey is the choice of protagonist's gender is not purely cosmetic, like it was in that travesty of a game, Valhalla. Your choice is woven into the story itself. Now, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Cassandra due to some of her voice actors' performances. That being said, I do prefer her to be the main character rather than Alexius, as I strongly believe that Alexius, as a voice actor, does a better job in his role when Cassandra is the main player character, if that makes any sense. Another thing that makes this game great right off the bat is music. The theme song, which was performed by Cassandra's voice actress, by the way, is absolute masterpiece in my opinion and gives me shivers every time I hear it. Most soundtracks in this game are great and definitely contributed to my memorable experience with Odyssey. This music alone, quite often, actually is enough to get me to launch the game and play for a few hours, getting lost in the vast world of ancient Greece.
The Wolf of Sparta is my father.
I also would like to mention that despite this game being released in 2018, it looks absolutely gorgeous, except horses. My main visual gripe about this game, and practically any game in Assassin's Creed franchise, is that Ubisoft horses look atrocious. Seriously. go look how Sucker Punch made horses in Ghost of Tsushima. What is wrong with you? However, the rest of the world is beautiful and it's expansive. Nature compelled me to explore and play a lot with the photo mode, and it invoked a curiosity to see more, to a point that sometimes I felt like I was rushing through some areas or sections of the game because I wanted to see what's beyond the horizon. I also cannot stress enough the importance of archaeological historical accuracy the developers recreated in this game from real life. One of the best features of this game is actually Discovery Tour. It has a lot of cool information, and you can see a lot of characters that you meet in the game and whatnot who are historically accurate people. So I hope you check it out if you haven't yet. I would also like to mention probably one of the main points of contention among a lot of people is combat. Usually I don't focus too much on technical or mechanical aspects of the games, but I have to mention combat in Odyssey, especially since combat was a major step backwards in Valhalla from Odyssey. So the Odyssey combat feels really powerful and grounded, and that's one of the reasons I liked it, at least open combat does. When you swing your weapons and they meet your target, so to speak, you feel that hit land and you feel power behind every swing. and that alone makes the game extremely satisfying to play. I think that within Layla's trilogy, Odyssey is in fact the best in terms of open combat. It's not as floaty as it was in Valhalla. It doesn't make you feel like a windmill where you just wave your arms about holding cardboard weapons looking like a complete idiot. It also feels like it has good pacing, unlike in Origins, where the open combat wasn't that great and Assassin's tools made the game last even longer than it had to. And I feel like both open combat and stealthy mechanics found their gold center in Odyssey, making the game quite a pleasure to play. Now, one of the points that I found different about Odyssey, and definitely what made me like the game the most, is its incremental expansion of various features. What I mean by that is you start off on an island and you know nothing about Cassandra, and they call her Mystios. It actually took me a while to figure out that Mystios was a mercenary and not an assassin term. And you hear a lot of word malaka. Later, as the story progresses, you leave the said island and the game opens up a bit more, where they're showing you the ship mechanics, the naval combat, and everything that comes with it. Then you land in Megaris, and the game expands further, showing you the mechanic by which you can affect the balance of the power in the world by helping other Athenians or Spartans to control the region. Then, as you go through, you discover the cult mechanic, let's put it that way, which, is in another edition. And then there is mercenaries that were borrowed from, I think, Shadow of Mordor, as was told. So every time you progress a bit more in the game, it adds something new. It manages to surprise you. I really like that. I like that the game managed to surprise me with something new every time, when I already thought, hey, that was it. There's nothing more to add to it, and it keeps going and going. I think that was very cool, and I wish more games did that. I understand that some people may think that's daunting, but I found that to be a great experience. I do have a gripe with the cult system, however. It was pretty underwhelming that upon the reveal on who it is, who the leader of the cult is, nothing really happened. I went to see that person and I was given a choice and that was it. It's not some epic moment in the story. It also happens actually after the story is concluded, which was pretty stupid in my opinion. It's just press of a button and then, oh, it's that person. Cool, I guess. I feel like it was a missed opportunity to really make it a blow-away moment within the story itself via some sort of side quest, or make it far more meaningful and impactful in the process, even if it happened after this main story concluded. It's just weird, and there is no real explanation why the leader of the cult is the leader. There was nothing really to it. There was a couple of sentences said about it, but I honestly don't even remember what was said because I was so underwhelmed. I'm like, well, this is lame. So I think that Ubisoft should have made the finale of you discovering the clues and who is behind the entire plot a bit more memorable, and it wasn't, and it was a huge disappointment. Overall, I guess I would say that Odyssey feels a lot like a large machine with tons of components that make it work. Those components being expensive, incremental introductions into the game, that being naval combat, then there was your influence over the world power, and so on and so forth. But also DLCs, especially the first DLC, Legacy of the First Blade. It was a complete 180 degrees experience for me from the base game. I will not make an understatement if I say I hate that DLC with a passion. Let me try and explain why without spoiling anything. First of all, the DLC tries to copycat the base game's cult system, and it didn't quite make it work. I'm not sure if it was rushed or something, but one can definitely feel lack of passion that went into this DLC as opposed to the base game. The cult system copy didn't work for me because, unlike the base game where there were key characters involved with the cult and you developed some kind of emotional response to them during the course of the story, the DLC quote-unquote mini cult was full of generic NPCs that I had no idea who they were and I had no emotions tied to them. So when they were discovered, I was like, okay, I don't know who this person is. How am I supposed to react to it? It made the whole member hunt meaningless and dull. And it actually was the same thing with Valhalla. When I was doing the whole Nemesis system in Valhalla, I was like, who are these people? Because they were in no shape or form involved. They were just generic NPCs, and then that's it. With maybe 3 people out of the entire thing that kind of were involved in the story, but then I don't even remember anybody besides the main person behind it. So it was weird. Overall, back to Odyssey though, the second point of contention with the DLC that I have is the story leads you to believe that you have choices and that your choices matter. Like they did in the base game, where you had about 9 different endings based on what you selected to say or do at certain points. But with the DLC, they just lead you on, and in the end they tell you, oh well, we've tricked you, and no matter what you choose, the ending will be imposed on you. Not to mention the love interest for Cassandra, small spoiler here, but love interest for Cassandra specifically looks absolutely ridiculous next to her. Overall, DLC left a really bad taste in my mouth, metaphorically speaking. I understand that the devs wanted to make a finale, quote-unquote, more definitive, to tie up some loose ends for other characters in the franchise, but I think it could have been done a lot better. As for the second DLC, Fate of Atlantis, I did like it a bit more. However, Atlantis DLC gave me the same vibe, so to speak, as I had when I was reading the final book of Harry Potter series. While I was playing the DLC, it felt great. Lots to see, lots to explore, lots of stories to experience and characters to meet. But when I took a break and stepped away from the game, I was like, what the hell did you just witness? You see, Atlantis is visually pleasing, the quests are quite interesting, and you meet some historical or mythological characters and creatures throughout the 3 chapters of it. You stay invested in the events while playing, but unlike base game, once you step away, you realize how actually ridiculous the plot is and everything within that DLC. I think I like the base game because it felt grounded and realistic, involving real historical places, events, and people in its course. The DLC, however, throws that grounded feeling out of the window. First DLC being atrociously bad copycat of the base game systems, and the second DLC being this unrealistic sci-fi mess that doesn't feel like it belongs in the scope of the game and its characters' arcs. I understand that Atlantis was more tied to Layla rather than Cassandra necessarily, but still, the entire plot of it was stupid. If Atlantis was a standalone game with emphasis on being about myths and legends of ancient Greece, sort of like Immortals Phoenix Rising was, it would actually be great. But if it's tied to Assassin's Creed and Odyssey in particular, it's just not it. So yeah, as you can see, I love the base game of the Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but its DLCs leave much to be desired, both for their own unique reasons. I still recommend for anyone to play through them to form your own opinions about them if you haven't already. Overall, I think that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one of the best games in the franchise, but only within the base game of it, not DLCs. It breaks the mold and restrictions of the earlier titles. It experiments with new things and systems. It boasts expansive, alive and vibrant world full of characters rather than NPCs, and stories where your choices matter, accompanied by phenomenal music. Is it an Assassin's Creed game for me personally? Yes. In a lesser degree, maybe, but the thing is, I don't want it to be like other games. If I want a true original experience of Assassin's Creed games, I will go play Syndicate or Brotherhood or even the original first game. The very point of Odyssey was to break free from the old restrictions and expand its potential, and in my opinion, it has succeeded doing exactly that. That's why I think it's still an Assassin's Creed game, and a good one at that. Is it a good game just in general? No, I think it's a great game. However, don't take my word for it. Do try it for yourself if you haven't already, and form your own opinions. If you have played the game already, please do let me know in the comments below, but I do request you to be polite and constructive. Don't just run your mouth, because those comments are gonna get deleted. I'm gonna stop from my ramblings here. Thank you for stopping by to check this video out and staying to the very end. Like, subscribe, share your opinions on the topic in the comments down below, and I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.